I come here, Mr. Speaker, before this honorable House with full awareness that the recent adjustments made on the Pula exchange rate have not been received with ease by many Botswana. I understand the discomfort, the questions, and most importantly, I understand the fears. Mr. Speaker, let me also acknowledge the patriotism of Honorable Omlu, who has been on my neck, genuinely concerned about the welfare of our people. Mr. Speaker, I know that these changes have sparked frustration, even anger, among many who ask if this government understands the pressure on livelihoods. Let me assure this nation that I do, and we do. These are not abstract and theoretical concepts. They directly affect everyday essentials such as groceries, fuel, and other basic needs. I want to assure you that this policy is not about sacrifice for its own sake. Rather, it serves as a protective measure and shields against potential economic collapse. The changes are meant to shield this country from a much more devastating outcome, where we are not able to pay for imports, a situation where we can't even afford fuel or afford food or medicine, a situation where banks run dry and where the poor pay an even higher price. This will not happen under our watch. I want every Motswana to know that I see you, we see you. I hear you, we hear you, and we are acting in your interest, even when the medicine seems and feels bitter. The decisions we have made are not popular. This I know. But popularity is not the measure of leadership. Responsibility is. Mr. Speaker, history has taught us that delay in action in times of economic vulnerability can be catastrophic. Listen to the words in Chronicles, I quote, of the sons of Issachar who had an understanding of the times to know what Israel ought to do, close quotes. In the same spirit, I stand before you today, along with those I work with a deep understanding of the times we live in and a clear conviction of what Botswana must do. Mr. Speaker, allow me to start with real-world examples of what would become of us if we do not act decisively. Sri Lanka delayed critical currency and reserve reforms, and when their reserves ran dry, the country spiraled. It spiraled into a fully blown crisis in 2022. Fuel stations ran dry, shelves were emptied, and confidence, not just in the economy but in the state, evaporated overnight. Mr. Speaker, I do not have the luxury of presiding over a booming economy. My predecessors had the benefit of a strong diamond revenues and stable reserves. Today I stand before you charged with the responsibility of delivering transformation amidst scarcity, amidst global shocks, amidst rising costs. I carry this burden not with fear, but with the courage and duty to do what is right, even when it is difficult to do so. Mr. Speaker, on the 10th of July 2025, the Ministry of Finance issued a press release followed by a joint press conference with the Bank of Botswana, announcing adjustments to the Pula exchange rate policy parameters. These adjustments aim to preserve foreign exchange reserves and support economic performance and growth. The key objective of the exchange rate policy is to maintain international competitiveness of domestic producers of goods and services. This essentially means ensuring that when adjusted for exchange rate, the prices of goods and services produced in Botswana remain comparable to those in external markets and for imports. Currently, this objective is achieved through the crawling peg exchange rate framework, which was introduced in 2005. This exchange rate mechanism incorporates three features, being the first, a Pula basket of currencies determined using our trading partners. This basket includes the South African rand and the IMF's special drawing rights, which is, however, not a currency, but an international reserve asset. Its value is based on a basket of 5 currencies: the US dollar, the euro, the Chinese renminbi, the Japanese yen, and the British pound sterling. The second, the annual rate of crawl, designed to approximate the difference in inflation rates between Botswana and its trading partner countries. The third, margins established around the central bilateral exchange rates at which the Bank of Botswana trades foreign currency with commercial banks. Mr. Speaker, for this exchange rate framework to be successful, it heavily relies on the availability of sufficient foreign exchange rate reserves. In simple terms, the Bank of Botswana needs at any point in time to supply the market with foreign currencies at the published rates to facilitate foreign currency transactions. Under this framework, low foreign exchange reserves, as evidenced by the recent downward trend, compromises the stability of the current exchange rate framework. In view of this, the Ministry of Finance, in collaboration with the Bank of Botswana, regularly assesses the exchange rate policy framework to ensure its intended impact on the Botswana economy. The review of the exchange rate is made twice a year, in June and December. Mr. Speaker, the mid-year review of the parameters of the exchange rate framework was done for several reasons. The Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Botswana are committed to maintaining macroeconomic stability, including the stability of the Pula. The joint research by the Bank of Botswana and the Ministry of Finance indicated that the Pula was moderately overvalued by around 5% to 10%, meaning that the Pula was 5 to 10% stronger than it should be compared to other currencies. Mr. Speaker, it's important that we all understand that in the past, an overvalued Pula was not a problem. It was not a problem because diamond exports brought in billions of Pula worth of foreign currency. That income was large enough to protect our reserves, even when the Pula was slightly overvalued. Today, the diamond market has weakened. Global demand has dropped, prices have fallen, and Botswana is earning far less from diamond sales, meaning that the previously strong flow of foreign currency has slowed significantly. However, when the Pula remains overvalued or stronger than it should be, the Bank of Botswana has to dip into the foreign reserves, selling dollars and euros to buy the Pula and stop its value from falling too quickly. This means that with less foreign currency coming in, the reserves were reducing faster, much faster than before, putting the ability of the Bank of Botswana to continue defending the Pula in question. In simple terms, keeping the Pula overvalued was eating into our savings, which was not sustainable, as the reserves would eventually run out. Mr. Speaker, given this assessment and the overarching commitment to stability, a primary goal of the recent policy changes was to preserve the official exchange reserves held by the Bank of Botswana. This objective, for example, is directly addressed by the increase in the annual rate of growth from minus 1.5% to minus 2.76%. This adjustment is intended to gradually moderate overvaluation of the Pula, thus to enhance international competitiveness of domestic producers' goods and services, while keeping inflation tolerable within the medium-term objective of 3 to 6%. In addition, the larger rate of growth is expected to help moderate the demand for foreign currency and support the preservation of foreign exchange reserves, and in the process strengthen the resilience of the Botswana economy. The widening of the trading margins around the central parity from plus minus 0.5% to plus minus 7.5% relates to foreign currency trading between the Bank of Botswana and commercial banks. Mr. Speaker, this adjustment acknowledges the significant foreign currency holdings within the market. The intention is to promote trading of foreign currency between and among commercial banks and their clients, thereby discouraging practices where funds might be hoarded or funneled away from efficient market intermediation. By fostering a more independent market, we aim to reduce direct reliance on the Bank of Botswana for foreign exchange and thereby ease pressure on the country's official reserves. Mr. Speaker, this mid-year review also maintained the basket of weights as 50% for the South African rand and 50% to the SDR. This helps moderate fluctuations of the Pula in the event of large movements for any single currency that constitutes the Pula basket. In addition, the singular larger weight of the rand also helps to sustain competitiveness of Botswana's exports in the South African market. Mr. Speaker, all these measures build on changes made in January 2025 and are designed to ease pressure on the country's official foreign exchange reserves and market access, and therefore reduce the country's vulnerability to sudden economic shocks and threat of serious and adverse outcomes for the economy. The preemptive action is also intended to facilitate and manage the necessary adjustments to respond to the changed economic circumstances of the country. Mr. Speaker, it is worth noting that in the absence of such a response, that the risk of rapid, Honorable Omlu, depletion of the foreign exchange reserves, there is a risk of rapid depletion of foreign exchange reserves, and therefore a possible ultimate inability to pay for imports. The changes are therefore intended to strengthen the country's foreign exchange market, independent of the central bank, while at the same time preserving the official foreign exchange reserves for policy management and operational purposes by the Bank of Botswana. Illustration. For example, between January 2024 and December 2024, the Bank of Botswana sold foreign currency equivalent to 56.6 billion to commercial banks. 56.6 billion to commercial banks. This translated to average monthly and weekly outflows of foreign currency equivalent to approximately 4.7 billion and 1.2 billion respectively. 4.7 billion per month, 1.2 billion per week. These outflows were drawn from the country's official exchange reserves during a period of declining inflows from the diamond sector. This situation is not sustainable and cannot be left unattended. Mr. Speaker, the high volume of sales of foreign exchange to commercial banks was largely attributable to the relatively low cost at which commercial banks could access foreign currency from the Bank of Botswana at that time. Mr. Speaker, following the adjustment of the parameters in July 2025, commercial banks have significantly reduced their foreign exchange purchases from the Bank of Botswana, with weekly purchases now averaging foreign currency equivalent to around 290 million Pula, down from the previous foreign currency equivalent of 1.2 billion Pula a week. What a difference. This decline reflects the increased cost of accessing foreign exchange from the central bank. The reduced volume of foreign exchange trading between the Bank of Botswana and commercial banks is a positive development, aligning with the bank's objective of preserving foreign exchange reserves. It also serves to incentivize commercial banks to source foreign currency through alternative market-based channels, thereby enhancing resilience and sustainability of foreign exchange market. Further, the changes represent a strategic shift to strengthen Botswana's resilience amidst a challenging global and domestic landscape. Aspects of the parameter, Mr. Speaker, aspects of the parameter adjustments are designed to encourage local production, which also contributes to preservation of foreign exchange reserves. Notwithstanding the quantum of the adjustments were intensely tested for foreign impact on inflation. In that regard, if appropriately transmitted, the expectation is that inflation would remain within 3 to 6% objective range, a level that is defined as price stability and supportive of inclusive economic growth. By design, some policy changes may bring long-term benefits, but can also cause short-term challenges for certain sectors in the economy. Therefore, price increases for imported goods are possible, but not to the levels that are being notified by some businesses. Mr. Speaker, I want to emphasize that these measures are fundamentally for the benefit of Botswana, fundamentally for the benefit of every Motswana, not just a select few. By preserving our foreign exchange reserves, we ensure the stability of our economy and the availability of essential goods that we must import, from fuel to critical medicines for our hospitals and food. Without these reserves, Mr. Speaker, we face a far more severe crisis, a collapse in our ability to import, leading to widespread shortages, job losses, and runaway inflation that would hit the poor and the vulnerable hardest. This preemptive action, this preemptive strike, is about averting a catastrophic economic meltdown that would devastate livelihoods across board. The adjusted exchange rate also directly supports our local industries and small and medium micro enterprises, especially those using locally sourced inputs in their production processes. This can create opportunity for such Botswana businesses to grow, be more domestically integrated, employ more people, and produce goods and services right here at home. This means more jobs for our youth, more opportunities for our entrepreneurs, and a stronger, more diversified economy that is less vulnerable to global shocks. This is a direct benefit to ordinary citizens. I acknowledge that the cost of imports, including imports, could rise. However, to the extent that this incentivizes the switching to locally produced inputs and consumption goods and services, this aligns with our industrialization strategies and objectives. Moreover, the measures undertaken are calibrated not to undermine the maintenance of inflation within the 3 to 6% objective range. Mr. Speaker, I would also like to respond to the narrative going around that the latest action has made the beloved Pula weak. This is again far from the truth. I earlier mentioned that the Pula was slightly overvalued, and therefore our currency retains its high status as a store of value and a medium of exchange. This is further supported by the low inflation environment, thanks to the monetary policy stance of the Bank of Botswana. Mr. Speaker, we recognize that these policy adjustments have had unintended, in some instances, unintended consequences, impacting sectors such as exporters and those converting foreign currency into pulas. This is partly due to a market structure that has not fully supported the intended policy transmission. Despite the market's foreign exchange availability, there is a clear evidence that commercial banks are maintaining uncompetitive trading margins and engaging in unreasonable pricing practices. And while the authorities are actively working to address these challenges, we concurrently urge all customers, businesses, and individuals to exercise their power to actively shop around and negotiate for more competitive foreign exchange rates. Mr. Speaker, several strategic options, which are mainly operational, are under consideration. These may include enhanced engagement with market participants, the potential introduction of caps on the markup applied by commercial banks to their foreign currency trading margins, the potential introduction of asymmetric trading margins for the bank's own foreign currency operations with commercial banks, and other targeted regulatory measures. These are operational, under consideration. Mr. Speaker, it is crucial to underscore our commitment to transparency. While past practice often involved confidentiality regarding parameter changes, public announcement of such adjustments has been the established norm since 2013, and this practice will continue to be upheld to further enhance transparency. These policy adjustments, Mr. Speaker, are proactive. They are short-term measures designed to avert a far more severe economic crisis that could result from an unchecked decline in foreign exchange reserves. By acting decisively now and acting in the way that we have, Botswana is better positioned, much better positioned to maintain currency stability, preserve jobs, secure access to essential imports, and support broader economic recovery. Mr. Speaker, the review of the exchange rate framework is a continuous process, an ongoing process, including potentially transitioning to a more sustainable framework should the need arise. The Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Botswana will continue to monitor developments closely and respond accordingly to any unintended consequences, safeguarding the welfare of the most vulnerable throughout this adjustment process or period. Mr. Speaker, allow me to repeat that countries that have faced similar economic challenges and delayed timely responses have experienced catastrophic, ghastly consequences and outcomes with much more severe impact on poorer sections of society, aggravating poverty and income inequality. The fact that there is threat of price increases for large proportion of inputs and consumption goods is a manifestation of our vulnerability due to lack of economic diversification, due to our modest local production and therefore our import dependence. Lastly, it is important for the public and businesses to understand that while businesses may change prices for various reasons, the recently announced adjustments to the exchange rate parameters do not by themselves justify the notified rates of immediate price increases by some businesses. Furthermore, the adjustments made are part of government's broader strategy to address structural issues and policy implementation constraints that hinder, among others, productivity. And as such, the success will depend on the complementarity or the complementary government policies and the response of the private sector to truly diversify the economy. Mr. Speaker, on the need for complementary government policies, allow me to share briefly about the recently launched Botswana Economic Transformation Program, a national initiative designed to fundamentally reshape the structure of our economy. The Economic Transformation Program is a whole-of-government transformation program that aims to shift Botswana from a consumption-driven, import-reliant economy to one that is investment-led, export-oriented, innovation-driven, and inclusive economy. The program is rooted in rigorous diagnostics and a nationwide call of ideas that invited the public, the private sector, and civil society to contribute bold, transformative project proposals. And through this process, we are identifying priority sectors that can unlock jobs, that can attract investment, and anchor long-term resilience. We are rebuilding the engine. The Botswana Economic Transformation Program is the blueprint for a more competitive, more inclusive, and more resilient Botswana, one that is better equipped to weather the shocks and deliver higher quality of life for all Botswana. And as I conclude, I would like to take the opportunity to thank the Competition and Consumer Authority for swift action in issuing a statement warning businesses against unethical business practices in increasing their product prices under the guise of exchange rate change. The relevant authorities remain committed to ensuring price stability, protecting consumers, and maintaining orderly market conditions for the benefit of Botswana. It should be noted that the changes made became effective on the 11th July 2025, and these are scheduled for review in December 2025.